Hello and welcome to the Cougs and Sport Management podcast. Our guest today graduated from Washington State University in 2006 after completing an internship with the Tampa Bay Rays. He must have been quite successful as he is currently the executive director of the Rays Baseball Foundation. Welcome, Mr. Stephen Thomas.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for having me.
So from what I've heard and seen on LinkedIn, you are not the only Mr. Thomas with the Tampa Bay organization.
Yeah, so pretty funny. So I have a twin brother. His name is Stephen Thomas. He also went to Washington State. And he is currently the director of promotions for the Rays as well. So it's kind of actually like fortunate timing of how it all kind of worked out. So back in 2006, I did my internship with the Rays and started in January that year, and I got hired on full time. And then my twin brother had graduated the marketing degree in May from Pullman, and then he did his internship with the Rays as well, kind of that summer. He decided that he wanted to go to grad school. So he went to grad school over at Old Dominion University, and then he worked in college athletics for about 6 years over at North Dakota State University. And then at that time, I had transitioned to like a new role inside of the Rays organization, and I was just kind of like talking to my old boss, and he was like, "Oh, Stephen, I just wish I could duplicate you." And I was like, I have a twin brother. I can ask him if he's interested. And at that time, I wasn't sure if Stefan really was going to be interested. He had just gotten married. Him and his wife had bought a house in Fargo. But it kind of worked out great. So he's been here with the Rays organization for 9 years now.
Well, talk us through your career with the Rays. You've been there since you started your internship and since you graduated. Talk to us about kind of that path in your career.
Yeah, it's been fortunate. I mean, so I started with the Rays, just kind of good timing. It was right at the beginning of an ownership change. So there was a lot of turnover inside of the business, and they were kind of recreating the will as far as like what fan experience and fan engagement looked like. So they had actually created this new department called Fan Experience, which was going to kind of access all different touch points inside of the ballpark. From we were doing just kind of weird fun stuff like what scent should the stadium smell like when you enter Tropicana Field, and we did like an orange citrus scent. To the customer service training implemented, to doing this whole variety of theme nights. So it'd be Carnival Day, then Pirate Day, and especially at that time when the Devil Rays were a really bad organization and attendance was still, struggling at that point. We just got this kind of blank canvas to like try as many kind of harebrained ideas. It really reminded me I did an internship with the Everett Aqua Sox previously, and it reminded me of that experience where just kind of like, let's just try it out and kind of see what works. And that was really just a fortunate opportunity for me to kind of grow and learn and kind of see what works and what doesn't work and kind of get my foot inside the organization. So from that point, I did my internship actually in corporate partnerships. And then I worked in our fan experience department. Then I got a promotion to our manager of business operations, which is really good because it was directly working under our president at that time. So I was kind of his right-hand person. And that role was fun just because it kind of led to a lot of like working in different departments. So like whenever there was a special project, whether it be, creating an incentive program in our ticketing sale department for group sales, or, handling kind of social media accounts and how do we track social media success, I got to kind of do whatever that special project was, which is a really cool opportunity. And then from there, I worked in our strategy and development department. So I was our director of strategy and development. And this was long-term planning projects. So, kind of opposite of like fan experiences where you're kind of like planning for, that weekend or that game. In strategy and development, it was concessions, it was ballpark, it was retail. It was kind of like my main areas of focus. And that was really cool just because I got to do some fun things, and especially on the TV side. I got to create a kids TV show called Rays Rookies. So we did, technically, no background in TV work, but we kind of working with our Fox Sports Sun provider and kind of the University of South Florida. We created a kids TV show and finding out the host, and it was the executive director of that show, and did 3 seasons of that show, which was really fun. And then I think probably one of the good experiences while all this was happening, and the Rays organization given a lot of credit, is that I was kind of able to cultivate some just passion projects. So I had been a mentor at that time for 9 years with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I was volunteering for Community Tampa Bay, which is an organization kind of with the goal of ending racial discrimination. I was a volunteer coach at the St. Pete High School wrestling team. So I was doing stuff with Ronald McDonald House, a lot of different organizations, and all of that was just kind of on the side of my normal duties. And then an opportunity came when our previous executive director of our foundation had left for a job in Ohio. And our president asked, like, hey, Stephen, we know that you necessarily don't have the background in nonprofit work, but we think that this is a role that you kind of grow and learn it from. And I jumped at the opportunity, and now it's been kind of, I think this is the beginning of my 4th or 5th year as the executive director of our foundation. So it's been a fun ride, and I'm very fortunate that really I've been able to kind of change roles every 4 or 5 years and kind of grow and reinvent myself and like learn again. And I think that, still sets me up good for the future as well.
So in your role right now, I was looking online and looking at some of the programs that the foundation does. Which ones are your favorite? I mean, there's kind of a variety. I mean, there's social justice programs, there's programs with athletes working with kids. What are your kind of favorites that the Rays work with?
And I think, primarily from the foundation, we are a grant giving organization. So about 70% of our funding goes back to, individual nonprofits in the Tampa Bay area. We do run our own programs with the Reading with the Rays and a Hormone Club, which we have a 16-person suite where we host families in foster care for every game throughout the year. We do a Rays jersey program, which is about 15,000 free T-ball jerseys and caps that we distribute to all surrounding 9 counties in Tampa Bay. But I think the one thing that I like, and I think it's kind of just a fun unique, is that when you get to play like a matchmaker in an extent. So like usually in a non-COVID year, we go down to spring training, and that's the time where we kind of meet the players and get the opportunity to kind of know what they're passionate about. And, we tell them about our community partners and kind of what they're interested in, what they're passionate about. And then we just, we basically see what the matches are, where you kind of figure out what the connection is. And probably a good example of this most recently is Brandon Lau. He is our second baseman, one of the better players on our team. And he, through his personal experience, had a passion for mental health. And you don't really see that connection with a lot of pro sports and professional athletes willing to talk about mental health and willing to kind of embrace that side of it. So he wanted to do something to bring awareness to mental health. We had a community partner at the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay that specifically focuses on that. And with that relationship, we were kind of able to create this Home Run for Hopes campaign, where for each home run, he makes a donation, which we match from the foundation. He's willing to do the kind of the interviews and PSAs to go along with it, and kind of that social media recognition. And then it kind of creates some additional funds for the organization, but more than anything, it's just kind of that awareness of, if you need help, here's the number to call 211 to kind of have that mental health resource if you're going through some of that crisis.
Professional sports have evolved tremendously since you've entered the industry 15 years ago, roughly. Have you seen and been part of the evolution of professional sports, and not only just professional sports in general, but baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the biggest advancements. So I feel like at that point, 2006, there was already, Moneyball was out on the baseball ops side. So you're kind of that technology, and even then that has transformed over the course of time for the baseball side of it. But on the non, baseball side of it, technology and analytics are just as big on the non-revenue side of it, on the non-baseball side of it, than anything else. So I think that's probably one of the biggest changes from where I started back in 2006 to now, is that like people just wanting to, what is my return on investment? How are you kind of tracking and evaluating success and results? It's really how do you evaluate it? And then just kind of that aspect of technology where, we last year was going to be our first year moving away from we're a cash-free environment. We don't accept cash at Tropicana Field. And a lot of it is about the data you're getting about, the customers, just that you're getting a higher per person when they're paying on a card versus paying on cash, and just some of those technology and making sure that you have that kind of that full customer database. So back in the day, like we had created these like platforms of people, and it was like, the Pat Parent, the Fred, our Frederica fanatic, basically like, types of fans, but we weren't really sure who that fan was. We know there was a type of fan, and we did stuff to try to appeal to that type of fan. But now you can really like narrow down and like, this is what this fan does in this particular area, or this, even like just the wayfinding aspect of like, so we know that 60% of our fans enter through, the main entrance, and they're going to go either up to this area. And if they go up to that area, these are the touch points that they're going to hit. So it's a more evolved analytical process now than what it was even 15 years ago. And I'm sure it's going to continue to grow on that moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, big data has kind of taken over every industry, and especially sports right now. It may not seem like it to the outside world, but to people working in sport, that's all it is. It's all about numbers and statistics now. And then creating that generic profile, you can do it for many other profiles. It's not just one, one for each gender. It's every single type of person you could think of. And also the capacity and capabilities that are coming out for technology. You wouldn't go to a cashless environment if every iPhone allowed you to pay or attach your credit card to it, or credit cards and debit cards are having the touchless ability, and so it all kind of just works hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure. And even some of that, just like, and I feel like we still have a somewhat older fan base than most, but you're right. People are just way more familiar, way more comfortable, having tickets on their phone or paying with their phone, or just having that technology where this is not the first time they've ever done it. Because that barrier to entry is already being removed, then, it opens up a lot more possibilities for sure.
The Tampa Bay area seems to kind of be the place to be for professional sports right now. There's just been so much success. Sadly, the Rays weren't able to pull off the World Series. But I mean, the Lightning won the Stanley Cup. The Buccaneers won the Lombardi Trophy. What do you think makes it possible that there's this many consecutive trophies and this much success in one area?
Yeah, it's funny because I talked to my counterparts over at the Bucks and the Lightning, and I joke with them. It's like, how do we make it to the World Series and we're still the worst team in Tampa Bay? Like, that's just kind of this weird year. And it's funny because, like, even in that situation where, imagine, like 3 professional sports teams, and there's also like a minor league hockey team that the Rays own, and they made it to the finals this year as well. And it's like all of the success, but the Lightning won the Stanley Cup in Canada. The Rays are playing the World Series in Texas. And even with the Bucks, being able to play the Super Bowl, they didn't in Tampa Bay. Like it's not the same like excitement and connection because of kind of this like COVID happening. So it makes you more optimistic of the future more than anything else, because like, for us still 5+ years as an organization, there's still a lot of transplants in this area. So any type of like connection or affinity building towards like team success and just being proud of Tampa Bay sports in general is something that is going to like have a lasting impact for our organization moving forward. So I'm happy. I'm happy that at least things are opening up a little bit. The Lightning just announced that they're doing about 3,000 per fans. We just said we're going to have 9,000 per fans for this upcoming season. So it's important to kind of build on that, build on the success of the team, and then also kind of just make sure that you cultivate the relationships and grow from there.
And not only during COVID time, but normal time too. How supportive is the local government and community and businesses of the sport franchises?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a lot better now than what it used to be when I first started. When I first started, there was a very big divide between Tampa and St. Pete. And for those not familiar, St. Pete is where the Rays play, and then Tampa is where both the Lightning and the Bucks play. And it's separated by a bridge, maybe 15, 20 minutes apart from each other. But you would imagine that bridge is an hour away between people's perceptions. And there's not really a collaboration as far as like now, listen, previously there wasn't. Now there's a lot more with the Tampa Bay sports partnerships, and all the teams have kind of adopted this like Team Tampa Bay motto. So there's a lot more connection as far as like synergy of things that we work with. Like I talked about, like, I talked to my colleagues, their counterparts at the Bucks and the Lightning, because like, especially when you're talking about foundation and community stuff, we're all trying to do good things. We're all trying to like reach as many people as we can and impact as many people as we can. And we might go about it in different ways. But it's really just kind of that connection of, what makes sense. The interesting thing to, at least specifically for the Rays, will be the ballpark situation and trying to figure out exactly where that goes from here. We have until 2027 until the lease is up on the Tropicana Field site. We've proposed the idea of doing a sister city. So that is splitting our time either in Tampa or St. Pete for the beginning part of the year, and then having the second half of the year in Montreal as kind of the sister city concept of it. And our ownership group and our leadership, and I think we're all on board with this idea and this concept. So there's still a lot of dialogue and conversation that needs to take place between us and local governments to see exactly what's going to come to fruition. But I think I think to some extent that like the local politicians and the local government agencies, there's a lot more trust now than there has been when we first started about the intentions of the organizations, what we do in the community, how we give back, how we're a valued community partner. So I think when you're coming from a place of trust, it's a lot easier to have those conversations about what the future looks like than it would be if you are too adversarial.
In St. Petersburg, there's a lot of governing bodies and events such as Women's Tennis Association, there's minor league baseball, IndyCar races. What advice would you give to aspiring young professionals who look at the region and are open-minded and curious about sports and but don't really know a lot about those aspects? Most people know of the MLB, NFL, NHL, but to get started into those programs.
Yeah, and it's great because Florida's just has a lot of opportunities because you even talk about like the minor league baseball teams and spring training baseball that train kind of in the Tampa Bay area. IMG Academy down in Bradenton, WWE, the Performance Center out in Orlando, and right now they're hosting their events over at Tropicana Field where the Rays play. So there's just a lot of opportunities, and also like the Sports Commission. The Sports Commission brings out events all the time. They're doing the NCAA tournament and the Super Bowl and the World Sailing Championship. So the warm weather and the benefits of having kind of year-round activity is such a huge benefit to just kind of being in the state. So even people on the video production side and the sports information side, there's just a lot more events because there's a lot more opportunities to kind of gain that access. So in general, like my advice would just be to do the research, like figure out exactly what event is and really how do you think you fit into that event or that organization. And then you just have to, in general, probably more advice in general is like you just have to set yourself apart from other people. Because even now when we do, hiring for internships or full-time positions, having the degree by itself isn't nearly enough. You need to separate yourself out from other people. And the main reason people do that just by work experience, volunteer experience, whatever it might be. And it doesn't necessarily have to be related to sports, although having that sports connection is extremely beneficial. But just having some experience besides a degree, and then kind of knowing, I think it's equally as important to know what you don't like as it is to know what you like, because it helps kind of wade through all of the minutia of other stuff, so you can kind of figure out where your passion is.
So there seems to be a push recently to make baseball more consumable for the average fan. And talking to my friends that are big fans of baseball and stuff, they are for the push to make it more consumable just because they want more people to watch it because it can create more. But there's also the historical baseball fans that don't want anything changed, although it's not rules. But what are the ways that the Rays and the MLB are trying to contribute to the push for this change? And is it even possible?
Yeah, I mean, so the push is really coming from the commissioner's office more so than individual clubs, but a lot of it is going to happen through the collective bargaining agreement. So like it's going to be the players and the owners deciding what the changes look like. So for this year, MLB instituted changes at the minor league level, and they probably did a really smart job of where they separate it by level. So like, AAA, AA, high A, single A, all have like different rule changes they're implementing from like low A is implementing the automatic strike zone versus high A, I think is doing where the pitcher has to step off the rubber. And then AA is doing the 15-second pitch clock. And, basically, testing out each one of these in their own environment, at least allows you to kind of track those results. And I think it's very intentional that they did it this year leading up to the agreement ending in December, so that they have some data in hand to figure out. And the commissioner has always been very, for the most part, he's been not wanting to implement changes without the players' input. He wants like collective buy-in on something as drastic as like changing the way the game is played. So I think over time, especially since at this point now, a lot of the guys from the minor leagues have already grown up playing with the pitch clock in general. That you're definitely going to see some of these changes as far as the pitch clock and automatic strike zone and the pace of play initiatives. Like they're going to happen, and the DH, that stuff's going to happen in 2022, in my opinion. But I think at least having the data to push it forward goes from there. And then I think from the club's perspective, and I think really from the player side of it, is that they just want to show more emotion. I think it's more of that, let the kids play the model they had did, but like, it's okay to be you. It's okay to be loud. It's okay to show emotion. Like that is fun. And our guys on our team are very like loose and, very fun loving organization, very loose atmosphere. So I think it's just kind of like showcasing players in that way. And I think that's one of the probably the biggest benefits of like social media is that you could get some of that behind the scenes content with players, some of that interaction that you wouldn't normally see on the TV broadcast that, you can follow on, Snapchat and TikTok and Instagram and all the other social media platforms. That kind of makes sense to have that stronger connection. And the more, the more you have the connection with the player, the more that you want to pay attention on TV or go in person. So it all goes back to the business sense as well.
Would some of these changes possibly include reducing or getting rid of blackouts for games or changing video and footage rights?
I hope so. I feel like that's probably one of the bigger issues is the blackout rules for Major League Baseball, especially for the in-house rights. But the TV partners pay a lot of money, so like you have to be very protective that you're not giving away an asset that the TV partners find valuable. I hope there's a balance between the two, but I'm not exactly sure what that balance is. Because really TV is the main driver for revenue for our organization, and I think a lot of other similar organizations. It's a bigger driver of revenue than TV, than attendance by itself. So it's going to be protective of the TV partners because you don't want them to be decreasing the TV value deals, and that's and I think in general like pro sports might become more of like a made for TV audience. And I know you and I were talking before we kind of got started on the broadcast just about like, a cord cutting and figuring it out. And like, I just signed up for Sling TV because I want to watch some of the NCAA March Madness tournament. And, I haven't done that in the last, year and a half, so like, but basically like TV or professional live sports is a driver to get people to on the TV instead of just watching on Netflix or DVR or whatever it might be.
And I think that's something that people are starting to, they try to get around it by doing, online streams. They sign up for the week free trial and do that stuff. So it's going to be interesting what happens because not a lot of people are watching cable, but at the same time, a lot of the streaming services are becoming like a cable service. So it'll be interesting to see what the MLB and just pro sports in general change and how, they evolve to kind of the online and the TV focused society right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I think the Apple TV and Hulu and some of these other channels as well are going to be into the bidding for for professional sports. And even when we talk about like local and the Pac-12 network, I think that their next TV broadcast rights deal is going to be very important for the conference. Just figuring out exactly what that revenue situation looks like. Because it's kind of been proven wrong in time at this point that the Pac-12 model hasn't been as successful as what was intended for it. So but that's a huge impact on revenue. So like those decisions and probably getting the right commissioner in place is going to be very important for the future of the conference.
And then speaking on WSU, on a previous episode, I spoke with a 2005 alumnus, Ryan Bates. He remembers helping start Zoo Crew. He remembers you. How do you remember that period of Zoo Crew, being in school with Ryan Bates, and just all around sport management of that era?
Yeah, it was good. I feel like I think one of the biggest benefits of like being in the sports management program is that you just got the opportunity to kind of like work in the athletic department. So I was started working off in sports information under Rod Commons, who's a legend kind of in the sports information world. And then Ryan and my brother were in marketing at that time doing kind of the Zoo Crew stuff. And obviously like, just the opportunity to kind of like be at the forefront in the beginning of it was phenomenal. And it's funny because like, really, I kind of remember Ryan more from just like being friends more than anything else, like from the college experiences that like, just people who are passionate about working in sports and wanting to do good and, having some fun intramural flag football games against each other and, just kind of just like the normal connection. But he was the one who kind of started the pipeline down to the Rays organization. He did his internship the semester before mine. And I know when they got like my application, the person who hired me said that he called Ryan and was like, "Hey, do you know a guy named Stephen Thomas?" And Ryan was able to say like, "Oh yeah, we know about our history and and vouch for me." And that led to me coming down to Florida, and that led to Stefan starting it down here as well. And kind of all of this paying it forward. So you kind of it's like little small things like you don't know like when you're like working in marketing department together at Washington State, that connection is going to help you down the road, 5, 10, 15 years from now. But having that relationship and having that person that you can always go to, and we're still friends and still talk to this day. So having that, yeah, it's beneficial. It's cool. It's something that I'm proud that we were able to kind of start and establish.
And then during that era, I believe that the university was thinking about cutting the sport management program. Do you remember anything about that from that era?
No, not really. And it's interesting because so I started off as a public relations major, and I was going to do a PR or sports management minor, and I ended up flipping the two because I just I like the courses. I like Professor Wong and Professor Crawford were there, and I felt more of a connection to the sports management program than I did to the communications program at that time. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, just that the benefit of a sports management degree to me was that I got to do all of the practicum and internship hours. So when I was in school, I was an RA for 3 years. I had did the sports information. I was the team manager for the women's rowing team for a year. I had did an internship with the Everett Aqua Sox for the summer short season in 2005. So I don't think I would have had that wealth of experience for when I was looking for a professional sports internship if I didn't have the sports management degree. So to me, the benefit of it is that you always have these opportunities outside of the classes to make yourself stand out more than just the degree by itself.
Well, thank you for joining us on this podcast. I appreciate all the advice, and best wishes on your future efforts, and best wishes for the Tampa sports region. That's a lot of success, and hopefully they can continue that. It has been great speaking with you, and I hope you keep in touch with the sport management program. I know a lot of people would love to hear from previous alumni, and I think this is a great way to start. So thanks again, and go Cougs.
Go Cougs. Thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate it.